If you want a clearer idea of what I am talking about in this video, do go check out the previous video before watching this one, right? Okay, thanks, appreciate you. When we're talking about the bag economy in World of Warcraft, what we're really talking about is the means of transportation for the entire economy, right? Herbalism, mining, dungeon delving, every single piece of money that will inevitably hit the auction hall, when it inevitably hits the banks, when it gets turned into the items you want as a player, it had to start in the overworld, okay? The overworld is where everything comes from. It's from where all the disenchanting materials comes from, all the cloth for your tailoring, all the herbs, all the ores. We know this. This is a fact. The reason I say bags are so important in World of Warcraft is because it determines the level of efficiency when you are gathering items at the very beginning. We've all been there when we're leveling a fresh character on a fresh server. We don't have any outside influence on when we can expect to have our bags. We start with our basic slot, and then we get our 6 slot, maybe a couple more 6 slots, and then we go to 8s, 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s, all the way to the end of the game where we're getting 18 and 20 slot bags. The reason I fuss so much about the bags in World of Warcraft, because if you enable the players to be able to gather as much as they want all the time, both legitimate players and bots, you are only enabling the inflation of an economy. I have watched on my own server, which is WoW Classic SOD Wild Growth, I have watched the prices of items skyrocket. Not because, you know, we have a influx of gold, like if you played a city and you were there for the incursions, that would cause a huge fuck up in the economy. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the introduction of a new, cheaper, and more affordable bag that is just below the bags you get off of Onyxia, which at the time were considered best, and bottomless bags being introduced, which are now a craftable 20 slot. The reason I have an issue with all of this is because of the fact that it then speeds up the game in a way that feels unnatural and uncomfortable to play. We all know that WoW players their number one goal is to speedrun not getting to log back into World of Warcraft again. So when you just enable their tendencies to sit down, pay 1 month of sub, bust out the entire game in a week, and then leave, you're only enabling bad habits that we're already seeing them try to change within War Within. With War Within, they are staggering the release schedule. They are slowly releasing new content. They are doing the best they can to prevent people from just blitzkrieging the entirety of the game as soon as possible. And I think it's a healthy mental dynamic shift that you're meant to enjoy the parts of the game. You're meant to slow down and take the time and get through the game at a reasonable pace, at a pace that is healthy for you, your relationships, and it lets you build bonds with other players. When we had the issues with them just handing out bags, what is the first thing that everyone saw? Particularly with the boosted character creation during TBC Classic when it got released. The amount of bots skyrocketed. The price of everything skyrocketed. The sudden influx of raw materials on the auction hall caused their value to become nothing. And much like just printing cash, you end up in a situation where the supply and demand are out of balance. And everyone can now just buy whatever they need. And so prices go up. His prices are going to keep going up until people can't pay that price anymore. That is how the WoW economy works. If you've ever played on the auction hall, if you've ever worked it, if you ever deep dive into the graphs, prices will continue to rise until people stop paying for something. And if gatherers are able to inject more money into the economy because they're selling their raw materials in much more efficient manner, then the endgame crafters are making a lot more money by buying this influx of materials, and they're able to produce stuff way ahead of cooldown where they normally would. And you might sit there be wondering, okay, doesn't that just mean everyone's richer? I don't really get what the problem is. How is that an issue? How is this an issue, Bard? Well, here's where the issue comes in. It's not healthy for new players. It is not at all healthy for new players. When we're talking about this issue, it is an influx on the economy that new characters and new players don't have the ability to grapple with. It's not good for the casual players who make up the majority of WoW's player base. I want to really hone that in. The 10% of us that can log into WoW whenever we want, stay on top of our auction dealings whenever we want, and take care of ourselves and take care of business whenever we want, we're not really at risk. It is sudden stagnation for new characters coming to the server. And as much of a meme as it is going into Orgrimmar, going to Stormwind, and begging for gold on a new character, it's a real issue. If you've made a fresh solo, I want you to know, no, I'm going to challenge you now. I'm going to challenge you. I want you to go to your main server. I want you to make a character fresh out of the gate and try to live with the auction hall through your leveling process. Do your best. You might get lucky. You might get lucky and you pick up professions, or you specifically hone in on the fact that early game materials can sell pretty well. But if you are not deep diving into money making on that character, you will quickly find whatever you need to buy on the auction hall to level your professions, or to level, or hell, that's even another one. I'm not gonna get that in a moment. Or level anything that you want to do, especially for the warriors and the rogues who are so gear reliant to do anything. You are going to suffer for this. If you change professions, which a lot of people like to, for some reason, go one profession until, engineering, for example, until they get to max rank, or max level, I should say, and then all of a sudden they want to swap to alchemy or enchanting or whatever because it's better for the long term. You are now having to pay more out the fucking ass to level these already expensive professions, because you are now having to buy these materials in an inflated market, and you're not selling them. The majority of what you make won't be sold. Within SOD, we got to pace things out, and during phase 1, level 20 potions sold pretty well. During phase 2, level 30 to 40, etc., etc. Now that we're in the end game of SOD, you will not make money. It is a money sink. This may sound nonsensical, and that's mainly because of the fact that I am just a player of World of Warcraft who enjoys what he does. He loves making his bags. He loves helping his friends. He loves doing all these tiny little things that most people don't think about. But that's the perspective I'm coming from, as someone who pays attention to these small details. I don't pump in fucking raids. I don't work the auction hall and flood the market with thousands of gold worth of items every day. I am semi-casual, and I say semi-casual because I do log in every day, and not everyone can. I can stay on top of my auction hall dealings, not everyone can. I have to watch the economy change over time, and it disgusts me. So when I say we're having a bag crisis in World of Warcraft, I legitimately mean that when you are changing how bags function, you are changing how the entire economy of World of Warcraft functions. You are rapid producing everything that can be made, and that's not healthy. I don't care what anyone says. Thanks for your time.
We are the Forsaken. We will slaughter anyone who stands in our way.